Oftentimes the mainstream corporate media will do their best to try to prop somebody up and make them look good, and in the process do so much hurt to them, hurt to their brand, hurt to them personally as well as mentally. Angel Reese is one of them. She's a very talented and promising basketball player, women's basketball player, and the media has just absolutely destroyed her while trying to prop her up. They've attempted to prop her up as a face-to-face rival to Caitlin Clark, and it just quite frankly has not happened at all, really at any point. They went into college in the same year. They were both born in 2002. Both entered college in 2020. Poor kids. And Angel was the higher recruit. They're both McDonald's All-Americans. Angel went to nearby University of Maryland, while Caitlin Clark went to nearby University of Iowa. The team that Angel Reese was on was a lot better. Maryland, they were the preseason ranked at number 12 her freshman year, while Iowa was unranked and was never ranked at any point in the year. During their respective freshman seasons, I know Angel missed some of it with a broken foot. Caitlin Clark and her Iowa team, which was never stacked with very many highly recruited players, they did beat number 12 Michigan that year and made it to the Sweet 16, going 11-8 in their conference and 20-9 overall. Angel Reese with her preseason number 9 team, the best they could do was also beat a number 12 Michigan team. They did go 17-1 in the Big Ten Conference, went 26-2 overall, and they promptly lost in a pretty big upset in the Sweet 16, and were not able to make it further than they should. It should be noted for that year they were coached by Brenda Fries, who was that year's Coach of the Year. She's the 2006 national champion for women's basketball, and has made it to 3 other Final Fours. So she was the Coach of the Year, but they could not make it any further. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark and Iowa also made it to the tournament, and they upset a lot of people en route to the Sweet 16 as well. So if you're looking at it already, you can see who the better prospect is. And at that point, really, everything should have been dropped, and it would have been for the better. It would not have hurt Angel the way it has, giving her these delusions of grandeur, making her think these double-doubles mean anything, when the fact is they don't, especially if they're in your stat pad in the way she is. But, I have to put a lot of that in the media. She just has been propped up by them. You look at their sophomore year, that's when Caitlin Clark really came alive. That year, they were either the number 9 or number 11 preseason ranked team, despite no significant changes. Wonder what changed. It was Caitlin Clark, that's what changed. And in that season, they beat number 5 Indiana, and then 2 days later, Indiana, who had fallen to number 10 in the rankings, which shows you how much people thought of Iowa, 2 days later in a makeup game, they beat them again. They also beat number 6 Michigan that year, and were actually looking pretty good for their finals, for their tournament run. But they got upset at home in the second round of the tournament, which was a pretty big upset. But it should be noted that Caitlin Clark stuck around and did not leave Iowa or enter the transfer portal to go to one of these big-time, basically championship factories. Angel Reese, on the other hand, she did. Preseason Maryland, they were ranked either number 4 or number 5, depending on which poll you look at. In that season, they beat number 6 Baylor, and they beat number 10 Indiana, the same Indiana team that Caitlin beat twice. And they once again lost in the Sweet 16. It wasn't an upset this year, but they still had a pretty loaded roster with people that would eventually become drafted in the WNBA, and Angel Reese got out and left. So she wanted to be developed better for the WNBA and wanted to join a winning culture, leaving behind the last year's Coach of the Year, who coached her, as well as a former national champion. Now, she did join LSU, who now had Kim Mulkey, who had won 3 championships in the last 20 or so years with Baylor. And she's now at LSU, so she joined them. So basically, you can see a pattern there. The going gets tough, Angel Reese gets out of there. Happened this year, and it happened her sophomore year. 2023 is when the Caitlin Clark machine just took off, absolutely. They were the preseason either number 4 or number 6, depending on which poll you look at. And that season they beat number 10 Iowa State, number 2 Ohio State, number 8 Maryland, who no longer had Angel Reese, but now they were number 8. Number 2 Indiana, and number 5 Maryland, who had jumped up to number 5 when they played them again. Made a magical run all the way to the championship game where they would play Angel Reese, and that's where the quote-unquote rivalry began, even though it was never a rivalry. In the Final Four, Iowa, with Caitlin Clark, beating the number 1 undefeated South Carolina team, who had beaten LSU twice that year. During the regular season, the LSU team with Angel Reese, their only win over number 10 team was the University of Georgia. And they were number 7. Other than that, they never had to face any other. They had never had to face any other top 10 teams, or never defeated one, I should say. They went to the national championship game. You probably know how that went. They blew out Iowa, who for some reason was a favorite, even though they had lost 6 games and LSU only lost 2 games, both to South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that one. I don't have my exact facts in front of me, but in the national championship game, they won. At the end of the game, Angel Reese was following Caitlin Clark around after the game, doing the "you can't see me" thing, which Caitlin had done to, some say done to her opponents, some say done to the crowd, whatever. And Loki's going to take it from here. Actually, no, he's not. And pointing, of course, to her fingers, signifying that she won the championship. Let it be noted in that game, Caitlin Clark scored 30 points. Her teammates that actually scored 13, 12, 9, 13, 2, 4, and 2. That was her help. Angel Reese was the 4th leading scorer on her own team. She had 3 teammates that scored over 20 points. A bench player that scored 22, and 2 teammates that scored 21 and 20 respectively. And she also had a 5th teammate that scored 10 points. So she had 3 teammates that scored 20 plus, and another teammate that scored 10, while Angel herself scored 15, half the number of Caitlin. And also had 3 other players that scored 6, 2, and 6 points respectively. So, yeah, she should not have been taunting her. She was not the best player in that game. Caitlin Clark was. She was on the loaded team, and they won. But she had to get her clout in somehow. And quite honestly, if it wasn't for this and her quote-unquote rivalry with Caitlin Clark, we would not know who Angel Reese is. That's all there is to it. 2024 happens. Lord knows what actually happened. You got a bunch of conflicting reports there. Angel Reese missed some games due to coach's decision. Some say it was because her fame was going to her head. She said she needed a mental health break. Who knows? Once again, the going got tough. The fame got to her. She couldn't handle it. Caitlin Clark handled her fame just well. In her season, she beat number 8 Virginia Tech, number 2 Ohio State, number 8 LSU in the tournament, which is we'll get to in a second, and also beat the number 10 UConn team, led by Gino Auriemma, the famed UConn coach who's won, I believe, 12 championships since 1995. He has been the guy, which, by the way, makes Brenda Fries's Coach of the Year in 2021 at her national championship in 2006, when Gino and Pat Summitt were winning all the championships, even more impressive. And Angel couldn't make it work with her. So take from that what you will. In 2024, LSU got a bunch of new transfers in. They were the preseason number 1. In the regular season, they beat number 9 Virginia Tech, number 7 Auburn, and number 3 Ole Miss. Those last 2 were in the SEC tournament. So in the regular season, they beat one number 10 team, and they beat a few on their way to the Elite 8, where they lost to Caitlin Clark. Caitlin would, of course, go on to make yet another finals appearance and would lose again, once again scoring 30 points, while she only had 4 teammates that scored any points, 11, 12, 16, and 6. Yeah, the fact that she would even made it there is pretty impressive. The fact that she beat Dawn Staley, who's won 4 championships, Gino, who's won 12, 13 championships, Kim Mulkey's won 4 championships. Let it be noted that Angel Reese never beat South Carolina, ever. Caitlin did. So they go into the WNBA draft this year, and that's where it gets really just pitiful. Caitlin Clark's the number 1 overall pick. Everybody saw that one coming. Everybody knew that one was coming. Angel was the number 7 pick overall, and only the number 2 pick by her own team, the Chicago Sky. For the number 3, they drafted Camila Cardoso of South Carolina ahead of her. So she's only the number 2 pick on her own team, yet she's supposed to be the Rookie of the Year, going head-to-head with Caitlin Clark. And this year's it's been bad for Angel. It really has. She's done some good things, shown a lot of promising. She's a generational talent when it comes to rebounding, and that's about it. She can't dribble. She can't shoot. Her ability to miss layups has been covered ad nauseum. And now she has a broken wrist, and she said the doctors gave her the chance to continue the season, but she chose not to, with an imploding Chicago Sky team who saw their best player leave and get traded to the Connecticut Sun by her wishes because she didn't want to be part of the organization no more. And Dana Evans trying to get out, but she can't. Her stat padding is ridiculous. I watched the 4th game when they played Indiana. Indiana beat them 3-1 this season. Indiana was up with 3 minutes to go by well over 25 points. They emptied their benches out. The Chicago Sky emptied out their benches, except for Angel. She was the lone starter in the game, full of third stringers. Starter, all-star player. At the time Caitlin Clark left the game, I believe she had 5 points and 9 rebounds. And she went out there and padded her stats and got her amazing double-double. But meanwhile, the media just propped her up and has really harmed her so much because it's just become obvious that she's really not on Caitlin's level. She is a piece. She can be a piece to a championship team, any championship team. Caitlin Clark is the piece that you build around. Angel is one of the players that you use to build around a star player like a Caitlin Clark. But trying to make her the focal point, all the talking heads saying that she's in the Rookie of the Year race, that she's neck and neck and even ahead of Caitlin when she never really was, even at the start of the season when Caitlin really wasn't doing so good and her team was 1-8. She was never she was never on Caitlin's level at any point in college or in the pros, and now she's out. And of course, when she got hurt, there was all sorts of allegations she faked it, which I never bought or anything like that. But looks like she could have continued if she wanted to, but she says she wants to worry about her future, which I get. But again, you think about how many people would have just wrapped it up and gone on. So I'm not trying to knock her, but it's a case where the media allowed her to let it go to her head. They put it in her head. They put it on her. Now she's an Instagram model. She's in movies. She got her own podcast. She's everywhere. During the Olympic break, she was not on the Olympic team, nor was Caitlin Clark. She went to Paris. What was she doing in Paris? I don't know. For all I know, she's in a gym, practicing her basketball, but it sure didn't look like it. She came back from the break even worse despite the break, whereas Caitlin came back even better and had clearly been working on stuff like her mid-range game, her floater, and all of that. So that's what happens when the media thinks they know what's best, and they want to just so desperately prop her up and push her, and now she's at a real crossroads. People are seeing her for who she is. They're trying to figure out why Chicago's not used Camila Cardoso more. And Caitlin Clark's going to easily win Rookie of the Year, even though the media does not want to give it to her. And quite honestly, she should be in the running for MVP, which I know the media will not give her that. They're going to give it to Asia, despite her game. But that's okay. She's scoring a lot of points and deserves it. So, but yeah, that's what happens when the media, and when you listen to the media. Caitlin Clark, it seems like, doesn't pay any attention to any of that and just goes out and does her thing. She knows, she sees it, and she kind of goes from there. So it's kind of a cautionary tale. Hopefully anybody in the future will look at Angel Reese to this point and say, I need to worry about me. I don't need to worry about what people are thinking. I need to worry about these arbitrary stats like double-doubles and just go out there and do my thing. Caitlin has beat her in every way that you can beat somebody as far as an individual player. For a guard, she actually rebounds better for a guard than Angel does for her position. her assists are crazy, her points are crazy. She even has more blocks and steals despite being a perimeter player, whereas Angel plays inside, which is pretty crazy. So I hate it for Angel, and I hope she'll get her head and her shoulders and realize that she is not Caitlin Clark, and she needs to work on herself and her game and quit all this podcasting and all that. That's for people like me that don't have any talent at anything. So, like I said, just I hope she can get it together, hope she can get it right, hope she can get herself right, and I guess we'll just have to see. That'll be part of what we get to watch going forward.